The Eric Morris era here with the North Texas Mean Green began last season. Again, a former Washington State offensive coordinator, and that offensive production flowed right on into 2023. But there were some other flaws with this team, and an up and down season in year one under Eric Morris's tenure to where they just fell short of making a bowl game. And with a revamped roster in 2024, they're going to look to try to break into the postseason. That's the goal for Eric Morris's squad. Do they get to a bowl game here in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? Here in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I want to welcome you to my channel and welcome you to prediction seasons, where I'm predicting all 134 FBS level college football teams, and it means I'm doing your favorite team. So why don't you guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell, especially if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am. You're going to want to hear what I have to say during the season as well, and we only got about 40 or so prediction videos left. You want to be sure you get up to date on every single one of my prediction videos. But hey, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Help support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine, and you can continue to support the channel by interacting with it in any way you can, whether that's watching my other videos, which you should really do anyway. Again, subscribing or ringing the bell or liking, commenting, sharing. You're helping to support what I do here on YouTube, so I really greatly appreciate everything that you guys do. And now let's dive on into some Mean Green football in 2024. We'll take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the Mean Green football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. A couple more things before we start, because right over here will be the stats the team put up by their... Oh, sorry. You can't really see that. There you go, right there. Those will be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I've put the team's coaching staff. Let's waste no more time talking about the North Texas Mean Green in 2024. This was an offense that was very, very good last season. Eric Morris had a really good offense over at Washington State. Brought that offensive system over here to North Texas, and it worked out really, really well for them. Almost 35 points per game, almost 500 yards per game. They were a pretty good team on third down as well. They threw the ball well. They ran the ball well. This offense was excellent last season. Well, as you see by the amount of names that is on the left-hand side of that split box, they're going to be losing a lot of talent off of this offense here in 2024. You got to start out from the quarterback room, and both quarterbacks that threw passes for the Mean Green last year are both gone. And Chandler Rogers, of those two, was the primary starter, and he was absolutely sensational. 3,382 yards on 62.2% completion percentage, 29 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, and did have 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground last year. Granted, his yards per carry was not that high, not a real good running quarterback, but what he did inside the pocket, what he did throwing the football, was exactly what this North Texas offense needed. He was a very, very good quarterback, and deservedly so. We'll go play Power 4 football in the ACC. He's over at Cal now. Stone Earl was another guy who threw passes last year, 40 of them for around 247 yards, 55% completion percentage, even number of touchdowns and picks. He is off to Abilene Christian, an FCS program. So that leaves your quarterback room with some other transfers that didn't throw passes last year also leaving. It leaves you just sort of needing to revamp this quarterback room. And while you have a freshman in Cash McCollum coming in, who could prove to be the future of this North Texas team, as soon as this guy leaves, you trade out one Chandler for another, because you dive into the portal, the TCU portal, and you grab Chandler Morris. We'll talk about what he did with the Horned Frogs last season. He had 1,532 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions with TCU last season on around a 65% completion percentage, and he's a much better runner than his former first-name counterpart in Chandler Rogers is. Last season, 45 carries for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, he kind of split a little bit of time there. I think Morris even had some injury things last season as well. But when fully healthy and fully capable, I think Chandler Morris has what it takes to be able to run this offense. I think he's going to fit well into the Eric Morris and Jordan Davis offensive system. And overall, I think this is a really good pickup from the transfer portal, especially if he can develop his ability as a passer like Chandler Rogers was able to here. And he's going to be able to utilize his legs a lot more than what Chandler Rogers was, especially with the amount of production we're about to talk about them losing in the running back room. Hey, that's going to make for a really, really good player at the quarterback position here for North Texas. But I did just say they lost a lot of production in the running back room. How about your top 3 rushers, and all 3 of them had at least 6 yards per carry? Io Adiyai, and I apologize if I'm saying that last name wrong, is gone. He had 1,000 yards last year and 143 carries, over 7 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns for him last season. Oscar Attaway is also gone, and Isaiah Johnson gone as well. Attaway, 738 yards, 6 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns, and Johnson, 229 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. All of those guys are again off to the transfer portal. Attaway off to South Carolina. Adai is off to James Madison, and Johnson is off following Stone Earl to Abilene Christian. So you do get Ika, however you pronounce that first name, Ragsdale back. You look at what he did in 2022, where he had over 700 yards, and I believe was North Texas's leading rusher that season. If not, he was up there pretty close. He did get a lot of carries back then. Didn't last year. I believe there was some injury or other things that went into play with that, but he should be that feature back for North Texas here in 2024, and you supplemented really well through the transfer portal. Zach Evans is in from Minnesota, a 3-star rated transfer, and Jawan Price, another 3-star rated transfer. He is coming over from Syracuse, so you get 2 Power 4 transfers to supplement all that you lost through the transfer portal, and it should still be a pretty good running back room for the Mean Green this season. Wide receiver room, Kalen Horton, even though he didn't have the highest number of receiving yards last season, in fact, I'll go through his stat line right now, only 6 catches for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. He's been invited to a couple of NFL mini camps, so he leaves the team through that way, while you lose even more talent and more important talent, more impactful talent, at least statistically, to this team last season through the transfer portal, because Jamori Macklin, your lead wide receiver, who had 1,000 yards last year, 1,004 to be exact on 57 catches and a team high 11 touchdowns, has entered the transfer portal. He will go play Power 4 football now with the Kentucky Wildcats. Jordan Smart is also playing Power 4 football. He is now with Ole Miss. And he had 19 catches for 230 yards and a touchdown last season. Trey Cleveland also does leave, 27 catches, 415 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I'll tell you where he's going here in just a minute. Also off to Abilene Christian. And then you have a guy that does graduate as well, Roderick Burns, who was the team's 3rd leading receiver last year, 466 yards, 4 touchdowns, is off through graduation. So your wide receiver room does still have a couple returners. I mean, Damon Ward is back, was the 2nd leading receiver of 487 yards, 5 touchdowns last season. Blair Conwright will also be a huge part to this wide receiver room, and Landon Sides is back here as well. So you get 3 returners that probably will end up being starters in the 4 wide receiver system here with North Texas, but a lot comes in through the transfer portal. Jeremiah Aaron is in, DT Sheffield, Shane Porter, and Dalton Carnes. I mean, you get all those guys coming in there through the transfer portal. They are all coming from Jeremiah Aaron being that of West Virginia, Carnes of Houston, Sheffield of Washington State, and the other one there in Shane Porter, I believe is a JUCO community college transfer, although I could be wrong on that. Nonetheless, you're getting 3 very talented transfers coming in. We got to speed through things a little bit more here. Christian Lee is gone out of the tight end room. He just entered through the transfer portal. Not a super huge or notable loss. In fact, I don't even think he had a catch last year. Oh, no, he did. He had 4 catches for 43 yards last season, so I'll correct my mistake there. But you do get another tight end coming back, and Xavier Kautai, and I probably butchered that last name. So he does come back. He had 7 catches for 42 yards last year, and to supplement the loss of Lee, you go into the transfer portal and get Oscar Hammond from Central Oklahoma. That is actually a Division II school, so he is making quite the big jump there. Offensive line, Kasim Moreka is gone due to graduation, and Fabici Nwaiwu and Ethan Miner are off through the transfer portal, so you get Gabe Blair, Jet Duncan, Larry Moore, and Paula Valpulu all coming back, while Makai Lee, Landon Peterson, Johnny Dixon, and Jasper Lott all enter through the portal. Offensively for North Texas this season, as I got to move along here pretty quickly. I rambled way too long about this offense. Chandler Morris, I think, fits in very well. I think they did well in the transfer portal, supplementing what they lost in the wide receiver and the running back room. The offensive line, if they can mesh, they allowed 38 sacks last year, and they lost some very talented pieces. So if they can improve and they can mesh, you're looking at an offense that's probably going to sit right around where it was last season, maybe a little bit of a drop-off, if that, just because it's really hard to get back to the numbers that they had last season. It'll still be a really good offense for the Mean Green this year. So when you take a look now at the defensive side, you do lose a lot of really good defensive talent, and the defense held this team back last season. Over 37 points per game, over 475 yards per game, and that rush defense, yikes, 255 yards allowed per game is just not going to cut it. The secondary was actually really not that bad considering everything else on this defense, but the rush defense was abhorrent. The third down defense was not good, and they're losing a lot of talent. We'll start out with the defensive line as usual. Marcus Moore and Vic Alabwedi, and hopefully I'm saying that last name right. They are both off and gone through the transfer portal. Moore, of course, being actually a fairly substantial loss, if I am not mistaken here. Again, not much production from him, but when he did get in, did have good production. He had 17 tackles last season. I don't know why my slide just changed on me. I'll change that back. My apologies. And then Alabwedi last season, 16 tackles, so both of them right around the same production. But Mason Richards is gone due to graduation. He's the big loss there on the defensive line, 48 tackles and 3 sacks, leading tackler among defensive linemen last season. So who comes back? Well, Roderick Brown does return, as well as Fatafehi Vailea, hopefully again saying that name right. Keith Smith also does return, but a lot comes into this defensive line through the transfer portal. You do get Jake Shipley and VJ Bronson back, while Terrell Dawkins and Braylon Charles come in through the transfer portal, and I just misspoke there. Shipley and Bronson do come in through the transfer portal as well to help supplement the talent on this defensive line. You do lose 2 pieces out of the linebacker room. No, not to the NFL, as I said earlier. They're actually both gone due to graduation, so my apologies for that error. But they were honestly 2 very impactful pieces in the linebacker room last season, and that was Kevin Wood and Carson Kropp, hanging right next to each other there on the tackle leaderboard. 38 tackles for Wood, 37 for Kropp. Wood did have 2 sacks. You throw half a sack in for Kropp, as well as a pick for that latter name as well. But both of them have run out of eligibility and graduated, so your linebacker room looks like this. Well, hey, you get 2 top 5 tacklers back. That's going to be Jordan Brown and Ethan Weslowski. Jalen Smith will also be back, and CJ Garnett returns as well, while JJ Jean-Louis enters through the transfer portal. Jordan Brown had 82 tackles, 3.5 sacks last year, and Weslowski, 63 tackles and 3 sacks. Both of them, in fact, not even top 5, top 3 tacklers for this team last season. No notable losses out of the cornerback room, but you take a look at this safety room, and oh my goodness, there is a lot that leaves. You start out with Phil Hill, who was gone due to graduation, led the team with 3 interceptions last year, had 42 tackles as the top 10 tackler, and a boatload of talent is gone through the transfer portal. Patrick Smith-Young is gone, 75 tackles, 1 pass defended for him. Logan Wilson will also be leaving, 61 tackles, 3 pass defended, 1 pick for him last season. Nick Nakwasa, and I probably butchered that name, so I apologize, but 21 tackles, you throw in a pick for him as well. And Harold West, a guy who had 12 tackles, solid production when he played. All of that talent is gone out of this safety room, and a lot of it some very good and experienced talent. I believe a couple of those names are even going to some Power 4 programs there as well. So you take a look at your defensive backfield and you say, okay, well, hey, no notable losses at the cornerback room, so pretty much everyone notable is coming back. And you get the big one coming back in Ridge Tejada. He had 34 tackles, 7 pass defended, and 1 interception last season. Lorenzo Thompson and Brian Nelson will also be returning to this cornerback room, and you do get a transfer coming in Xavier Bryce. He is entering this program. I'll get you from where here in just a second. He's actually coming over from Texas. He's going to be joining a teammate of his in the safety room, but we have to talk about the returners first. Javen Anderson and Evan Jackson will be the returners to that safety room, and a lot of transfers come in because a lot of transfers leave. Asheem Young is coming in, and that is a huge pickup over there from Ole Miss. BJ Allen is the other Longhorn that joins his teammate Bryce. He will be playing as a safety this year. Jane Hill is also coming over from, I believe, a Division II program, if not a low-level FCS program as well, and Davis Spuriels will also enter this program as well. So you're getting a ton of talent through the portal, and kickers are people too, guys. We got to show them some love. Noah Rockenberg, I believe, has been invited to some mini camps here and there as the primary place kicker for last year, so he is off to the league, while Evan Sawyer does return as the punter. You go into the transfer portal, and you get Blake Ford as your kicker. A couple other names you can mention along with the kickers as well. But this defense has to see improvement in 2024. The offense could still be really, really sweet, and it's got a lot of very good pieces on it. This defense, though, you need to take it a step up, probably several notches. I mean, this offense was good enough to help this team win, I'll say, anywhere in the ballpark of 6 to 8 games last season, just with the caliber of defense that this team played. It wasn't good enough to get them there. You have to see this defense at least improve somewhat, and they do still have a lot of nice returning talent, and I think they did well in the portal even with all they lost, but you got to see improvement on this side of the ball for sure for the Mean Green this upcoming season. It leads me into talking about the Mean Green schedule, and if you don't know how we do schedules around here, we'll run through it right now. Any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Mean Green are going to win fairly easily. Any game in yellow will be a close competitive one, but a game that I do see the Mean Green winning, and any game in red is a loss. And I think that that's where this whole schedule starts out for North Texas. I believe they lose their first game of the season on the road to South Alabama. Now, Carter Bradley is gone, and there's a lot of other really good talent that does leave that team. And I even think there's a head coaching change that's taking place with that team this season as well. Kane Womack, I believe, is gone, and I think Major Applewhite, who was the offensive coordinator, is taking over. However, they still got a lot of really talented pieces in that wide receiver room, and I think that's the matchup that's going to help them win this game. That wide receiver room for South Alabama still has the likes of Devin Voisin, Javen Ivory, and they still got a lot of really nice talent there, and I think they outduel this Mean Green secondary. That just needs to get a lot figured out. It lost a lot of pieces. The transfers are going to take some time there to settle in. If they can play well, they can go on the road and win this game. The offense is good enough to do so, as South Alabama lose some good defensive pieces, but I do think that wide receiver room there makes a difference against this North Texas defense and secondary as a whole, or I should say secondary and defense as a whole. South Alabama wins that one, but you should get your first win of the season against Stephen F. Austin. You got to go on the road and play a Power 4 program next in the Texas Tech Red Raiders, an in-state team, but I still think you end up there losing that game. Texas Tech has got a lot of very good talent here, and Joey McGuire's team, who was supposed to break out last year, didn't. Now this year, not a lot of people are talking about them, and they could absolutely break out this season. Texas Tech is a team that I look to be one of the more dangerous ones, and one that you can't sleep on in the Big 12. A lot of good talent offensively and defensively, and the Red Raiders beat the Mean Green as the Mean Green now fall to 1-2, but they're going to get through non-conference play with a 500 record, as I do believe that they're going to be able to beat the Wyoming Cowboys. Now, you take a look at what the Cowboys have this season. Well, they're going to be losing their legendary head coach, Craig Bohl. Jay Sawvell is going to be taking over that program, but when you take a look at the pure talent here that is on this team, you actually do have some pretty solid returning pieces among all the pieces that do leave through the portal due to the coaching change and everything of such. There's actually quite a bit of returning talent here. A lot of very experienced and really good returning talent coming back here on defense. It was a very good defensive team last season, but overall, I just see this North Texas Mean Green offense being able to outduel the Wyoming defense. It's a home game for North Texas. I think that plays into their advantage as well there. They get through non-conference schedule 500 before diving into American Athletic Conference play here, starting out with one of the more fascinating and, in my opinion, really tough to predict teams in the Group of 5 realm, and that is the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. It's really confusing to try to figure out where to start here with this team. Francis Kirk should be taking over that quarterback position. You got a lot of good, solid skill position players around him, as well as a ton of wide receiver transfers, much like we see out of North Texas here. But I believe North Texas has a lot more proven talent, especially that quarterback position in Chandler Morris. I think he's better than whatever Kirk Francis or anyone else in that Tulsa quarterback room has to offer. So I see North Texas being able to win that one. They beat the Golden Hurricane at home before moving into their first bye week, and then you got to go on the road and play the Florida Atlantic Owls, who I have being much better here in 2024. Tom Herman knows how to coach at the Group of 5 level. FAU's got a lot of really good talent. Cam Fancher is coming in to play quarterback. If he can improve from where he was at Marshall, he's got the pieces to be a really nice talent. Again, a lot of wide receiver transfers coming in. You got some really good defensive back transfers coming in there as well. And overall, on the road here, I just think North Texas is going to have a tough time winning that one. And this starts quite the losing streak for the North Texas Mean Green here, because, I mean, you take a look at that 5-game stretch after the Florida, or I should say starting with the Florida Atlantic game. Ouch. There are just some really tough games here. I think you lose your next 2 of them. I do have you losing on the road to Memphis. They're going to be one of the most talented Group of 5 teams this year. Seth Hennigan is back. He's got speed in his wide receiver room. The defense is also going to be lights out, and I think you'll lose that one to the Memphis Tigers. I got you losing to the Tulane Green Wave as well, and I know they lost Willie Fritz. I know they lost a ton of production from last season, but I think Kai Horton has the necessary pieces to be the quarterback. If he does get the start, you're looking at a former former Power 4 quarterback, and Ty Thompson coming over from Oregon. That probably ends up getting that starting role there. A lot of really good pieces still coming back there on defense. Offensively, you still got a lot of good pieces. And John Summerall is a head coach I really like. Tulane will still be one of the better teams in the American Athletic, and I have you losing that one there. So you actually drop below 500 here before your second bye week, and you get a home game against a new member to the American Athletic, one that's probably long overdue. It is the Army Black Knights. And the Black Knights got a lot of really good talent coming back. Of course, they play that armed forces triple option style game. I think North Texas is going to be ready for it. Again, it'll come down to how much can that offense do against this Army defense that usually is really good, and it'll probably be really good again here in 2024. I think they do enough, though. Now, if this North Texas rushing defense just doesn't improve from where it was last season, yikes, it could be a very, very long day. But I do think that North Texas sees some improvement there. I think the offense is too explosive. They beat Army, but they do lose 4 out of 5 in that tough stretch as they lose to the UTSA Roadrunners. Still a lot of really, really good talent, and, well, UTSA under their head coach, whose name right now is escaping my mind, Jeff Traylor. That's it. Look, it's just got a lot of very solid talent. Owen McCowan is there at quarterback. I don't think you need to panic there on him, and you do lose to UTSA there in week 12. But I think you win out here, so I think you are going to be able to beat East Carolina. That's a Pirates team that's going to look to make improvements from where they were last year, and a Temple team that I just don't think is going to be that great this season. They lost E.J. Warner, that really good quarterback, through the transfer portal, even though he hasn't shown a lot, has some really good tools. And overall, those two teams, I just see being towards the bottom of the American Athletic. North Texas needing to win their last two to make a bowl game. I think they do it, and they go 6-6. If everything on this team gels and the transfers fit in well and Chandler Morris explodes at the quarterback position, this is a team that I really can see winning 9 games. But everything has got to fit together right. The defense has to improve. Really interesting team here. I got 6-6 in the bowl game for Eric Morris. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and we're on to the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana in my next video. Goodbye.